Hello everybody, tis I, recording on my laptop webcam, as opposed to my phone's camera, like I've done for the last, I think, 5 or 6 videos. The past 5 or 6 videos I've used my phone's camera to record on, so the video quality is lower, but I don't have any other camera to record on. Now the reason I'm recording on my laptop webcam, as you might have been able to guess, is I'm going to be using my phone for other purposes. Fairly certain that it cannot film and take calls and call out at the same time, and I'm not using this as an opportunity to find out whether it can or can't. Now right here in the viewing area you might be able to see 2 phones. One is newer than another. This one is an AT&T. I forget the model number of it. I guess I should have looked before I filmed it. Before I started filming this video, but whatever. It's a modern phone, but it's nice. Part of the reason I got it is because it has speakerphone. It also has caller ID, which you need 4 AA batteries to operate, which the compartment is on the right side for. It's the back of it, which has nothing. The left side has nothing. The bottom is just a thing. This is interesting. You can flip this out. I presume mount it on the wall, maybe, or have it back like that, which is how I had it, so that you can sit it on a desk. This next phone, I believe, this particular example, I believe may be from 1979, maybe. But it doesn't look like the phone, it doesn't look like the cords can be removed from this particular phone, so it may not be from 79, but I believe the microphone is from 79. The thing with these Western Electric 2500s is they were made with modular components, so if something went out, you just took it to the phone shop and got it replaced, and that's if. That's if. Which I suppose in many cases things did go out. But either way, both of these phones do work, but they're not exactly the main subject of this video. They're just the aid in talking about the Cell2jack, which is this tiny little itty bitty box right here. Very, very small box indeed. Very, very small. Now the way this works is you have your landline phone connected to the Cell2jack, which is connected to power of sorts. I'll get to what you can use to power it later. But then the Cell2jack is connected to your phone via Bluetooth. And the way you pair it is what you do is you pick up your landline phone. I'm not going to demonstrate this because there are 2 videos on YouTube already, presumably from people that Cell2jack recorded to demonstrate this, but they didn't really give a long demonstration. They didn't give a long Noah D type long-winded demonstration, but they do show you how to pair it. But I'll explain it to you. What you do is you pick up your landline phone. This will work with corded and cordless models, by the way. You dial #* and wait till it says pairing, and then you go to search for the Cell2jack on your phone and you pair it, and voila. Now what I have to do is go into the device settings and disable media audio and only have phone audio. That way I can actually hear my phone talking, because I have to use a screen reader because I can't see nothing. Now as a courtesy to you, I lowered the volume level. By the way, this is the phone that I've been using to film. It's a BlackBerry Key 1. It's a fairly nice phone, although I think that there's something wrong with it because it tends to restart all the time, and I never could figure out why. But given the fact that I don't really use smartphones all that much, other than for calling, texting, and taking the occasional Uber ride, I can't be bothered. I can't. I really didn't want to have to get into the smartphone craze, but when I found that Uber is cheaper than cab fare, I'm like, yeah, fine, whatever, I'll step into the 21st century. Anyway, I'm not gonna go on a granddad rant. But how I discovered this device, the Cell2jack, is I've always had an interest in landline phones, besides the other interests of mine which have been expressed, I cannot talk this evening, dear Lord, on this channel. You know, that being the different types of music, radio, vintage electronics. I've always had an interest with landline phones, but I never really had anywhere to take it because for the longest time we've gotten rid of our phone line. And I'm not gonna ask to get a phone line just so that I can, you know, mess with landline phones. So I keys into the gargle one day. I says, I wonder if there's a way to use a landline phone with an existing cell phone. And lo and behold, I find the Cell2jack. I gotta say, as much as I talk about how much technology is becoming far less durable than it used to be, and a lot of parts are improving way too fast. I mean, we're gonna have winking doorknobs and breathing carpets in a couple of years, folks, but I digress. There are a lot of things that have, you know, improved, but, you know, it's good that they improved, and things that have gotten cooler. And with that, the amount of peripherals that are available, and peripheral converters and adapters and other thingamajabba-wappers, is ridiculous. And it's really good stuff. For instance, I have a HDMI to composite converter in use, so that I can use an Apple TV with an old JVC 32-inch CRT TV from 2000 that I have in service. In fact, I have it on in the background right now, and I'm actually using the very HDMI to composite converter. It's just a little box that I have. It's very small. It's probably about the size of the Cell2jack, actually. It's probably not too much bigger. But, anyway, I'll go ahead and show you how the device works. Now, I'm gonna call my phone using Google Hangouts on my desktop, which, as a courtesy to you, I have lowered the speaking rate of my screen reader. I typically have it super fast and nobody can understand what on earth it's saying. Let's turn speech off so that I can dial. And you'll hear my cell phone ringing as well as the AT&T, because that's what I have it hooked up to. Any second now. Let's see. Huh. Oh, there we go. It's about time. So now you hear both, and you can just pick up the phone. Now keep in mind, when you pick up the phone, it doesn't connect the call immediately. You have to wait, in my experience, about 2 seconds. And I'll turn up the desktop speakers now. And you can hear me talking. And as you can maybe hear, the quality is not bad. It could definitely be worse, but it could also be better. But you know that a lot of it also has to do with the phone that you're using. So there you go. And it'll also call out. And I'm gonna get to another quirk of this thing besides the not connecting a call immediately when you pick up the phone, which is probably more nature of the Bluetooth beast. Now listen carefully. If you're keen on what pitch certain things should be, you'll notice something about the dial tone. Now I'll put this AT&T on speakerphone, which is part of the reason that I got it, so I could better demonstrate this. Yes, that dial tone is off pitch. Interesting stuff. I'll make a call. We're going to call the National Weather Service office in Spartanburg, South Carolina.
Thank you for calling the National Weather Service at the Greenville-Spartanburg Airport.
If I lower the phone volume...
Please call back during normal business hours, Monday through Friday, 8 a.m. to 4 p.m. Weather records for
sound a
climatological
little
data
bit
can be
better.
obtained from the National Center for Environmental
Let me
Information.
lower this a second. One thing I want to say is when you're using a call service that requires DTMF tones, if you press numbers on the landline phone, it's not always going to work out.
Severe weather. Now for the
It did that
National
time.
Weather Service forecast for the Piedmont of the Carolinas, including and vicinity. Tonight, partly cloudy
And as you can
midnight,
tell,
then becoming mostly cloudy.
the quality is not that bad.
In the lower 50s.
Of course, the quality is going to depend heavily on your cell service, and of course, it's not going to be as good as a phone line of any kind, including digital VOIP phone lines, like those from Spectrum or Verizon Fios. In my experience, cell service, it's just not as good, save for GSM. GSM offers pretty good audio quality, I find. But CDMA services like Sprint and Verizon and the other companies that use Sprint and Verizon's networks aren't going to give you as good results. But the quality, that being said, is better than I was expecting. So, that's good. And another thing, I'll go ahead and demonstrate this, just in case you're having this concern, like I did. If you're wondering if this will ring the mechanical bells of these Western Electric phones and other similar phones, well, you're about to find out. Because I know that was one of my first concerns, because watching one of Jordan Yu's videos, great channel by the way, check his channel out. I was watching one of his videos, and he has an OBI box, which works with Google Voice, which I would be interested in getting, but I don't have direct access to the Ethernet connection. And, well, I don't know. Maybe there is a way to get Wi-Fi to Ethernet. But, his OBI box, I guess he had to change some settings because it initially, I don't think, would ring a bell ringer. And the Cell2jack has no problem ringing the bell of these vintage phones. So that's good stuff. By the way, all of the buttons on this phone work. Good stuff, man. Good stuff. So you've seen the Cell2jack take calls. You've seen it call out, and there are a couple of things that I'd like to point out before the videos end. Apparently, this does have caller ID support. I don't know if it works. I guess the only way for me to find that out, well, there are two ways, I guess. Maybe I could put batteries in this AT&T phone and get some sighted folks up in here and tell me if the caller ID works. Or, and this is probably what I'll wind up doing, I could get one of those cordless phones that have the talking caller ID in the base unit, which is probably what I'll wind up doing. I'll probably get a Panasonic phone because, well, as you've seen in a couple of my videos, well, probably one, I am quite a fan of Panasonic. I really, really like Panasonic products. I don't know, I'm just a Panasonic fan. But, anyway, so it apparently has that, and it does have a feature which I confirmed worked today, if somebody is typically on a regular landline or any other phone line, when you're using one of these phones and somebody's calling you, you can either, on these phones, simulate flash by, holding the switch down for maybe 2/3, well, no, not even 2/3 of a second, maybe 3/4 of a second, and it'll take you to the other call. Well, this device does work like that. If somebody is calling you on your landline phone, you can hit the flash button, and it will take you to the other call. Keep in mind, you are going to have to wait about 2 seconds until you're transferred to the other call, just like when you pick up the phone to answer a call. So there's that, but it does work though. One feature this thing does not have though, you cannot create a conference call with this device. You are going to need your mobile device at hand for that. Just like you're probably going to need it at hand if you're using a call service that requires pushes of buttons or DTMF tones. It's sketchy. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. As you saw with the National Weather Service that I their office that I called, it did work. It did take my 4 on the first try, but sometimes it does take a couple of tries. So keep that in mind also. This is not necessarily a 100% perfect landline replacement, but it does get the job done, and it does get it done better than I expected. That being said, there are a couple of quirks and other design aspects to point out, other than the off-pitch dial tone and the fact that you have to wait about 2 seconds before the call is in place, whether you're taking a first call or getting transferred to a call from a call. Now, when you get yourself a Cell2jack, they're not going to send you a 5-volt power supply. Their idea is for you to use the supplied cable, which is stupid short by the way, and connect it to your phone's power supply, and connect the other end of the cable to the Cell2jack, which by the way is just standard micro USB. It's not USB-C or any proprietary connector, it's micro USB. Their idea is for you to use their cable that they supply you with your phone's power supply, and then I'm not sure if you're going to be able to see this, but it does have a 5-volt USB output. Their idea is for you to connect your phone's charging cable to that 5-volt USB output and charge your phone with the Cell2jack. I cannot recommend this. I cannot. The use of the device and the charge that it will give to your phone is sketchy at best. When I was using my phone's power supply and charging my phone with the Cell2jack, occasionally when I would pick up the phone, you would hear no dial tone, and it wouldn't, when you would hit any of the buttons to dial out, it would not register anything. I cannot recommend using it like that. But feel free to experiment with different power supplies. You do not have to use the one that came with your phone. In fact, currently, as of this video, I am using the power supply that came with a rechargeable electric screwdriver that I got for Christmas, which actually happens to have a micro USB connector at the end. So that's working perfectly fine. You do not have to be restricted to your phone's power supply, like they yell at you when they, tell you to do that when you're looking at the features and specifications of the device through their website or their Amazon profile. So there's that. And another thing regarding a splitter. I tried having both of these phones connected to the Cell2jack, and interesting thing, using the screwdriver's power supply and my phone's power supply yielded 2 different results. With my, actually no, with the screwdriver power supply, both phones would operate. However, one phone would have a little bit more noise, and the DTMF tones would not register. You would not hear them at all. That was with the AT&T phone. This phone, if you hit any buttons on it, I guess this phone didn't have enough power. It wasn't being supplied enough power for the thing to work right, or whatever. Using my phone's power supply, though, both phones worked completely fine. But, and this is very interesting. This is an interesting quirk. I don't know if it has anything to do with the fact that I was using a DSL filter as a splitter, or if it has to do with the fact that this Western Electric takes a ton of power to ring the electromechanical bell ringer, or what. I don't know. And I don't have any other phones with a piezo type ringer or any cordless phone to test having two phones hooked up to it with, or else I would. When I do, though, I will forward the results. But when I called my cell phone with both of these phones hooked up, as soon as my cell phone would start ringing, the Cell2jack would pick up the phone. I mean, obviously it'd take 2 seconds, but you know the dealio. It would pick up the phone as if it thought that one of these phones were picked up. But in reality, both of these phones were sitting on the, both of the handsets were sitting on the receivers. But the other party would hear nothing because none of the phones were picked up. So that's certainly an interesting thing. I have absolutely no idea what was going on. So I do not know if this would work with an answering machine. I'm going to have to pick up a vintage answering machine, obviously, so I can try this out and build up my collection of phones because, yep, why not? So, I believe I've covered everything on this Cell2jack that I wanted to cover. Can I recommend it? Absolutely. Absolutely, I could definitely recommend it. There was one more thing I wanted to cover. Evidently, you can use this thing with your cell phone's assistant, and you can also supposedly control smart appliances throughout your house. I personally cannot vouch for this because I have not tried it, and not only do I have no smart devices, but I don't have the Cell2jack app installed, which you have to have if you want to control your smart devices. So I cannot vouch for that, but I can vouch for just about everything else. But as I was saying, I can definitely recommend the Cell2jack if you want to use your cell phone with landline phones for whatever reason. Feel like I don't know. I can't see much appeal in this, but there evidently is some appeal because this doesn't have it doesn't seem like it has a ton of buyers, but it seems like, some people bought it. I mean, I was one of them. And I can recommend this. I cannot say with confidence that this will work with two phones connected to it via splitter, or a phone and an answering machine. But as I might have said before, this is not a 100% perfect landline replacement. If you understand that, and you understand that it'll just get the job done better than you might expect, then this is perfect. I don't really have any negative things to say about this. Now, I don't know how long it'll last, given my views on the durability and the long-last necessity-isms of these modern-day electronics, but we will see how long it holds up. And also, at a discounted price, not by the company. The company had nothing to do with this. I got this with an Amazon gift card that I got via means of another source. So I did save a considerable amount on this device. It's about $40 on Amazon. I think it's, maybe slightly overpriced. Maybe if it was $30 or $35, that would be good. But It's not bad. It is not bad. I can recommend it. I'm happy with it. I'm glad that I decided to bite the bullet and get it. I can recommend it. Later.